Today on the Dr. Gerry Fishkin Show, we're honored to welcome Brandon Jamal Baker, a remarkable voice of resilience, faith, and redemption. Brandon's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. At just 18 years of age, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, a sentence that could have crushed his spirit and ended his dreams forever. But instead of allowing prison to define him, Brandon spent 25 years transforming despair into purpose and trauma into triumph. Today, at 44, Brandon is a published author, public speaker, youth mentor, and activist. He's pursuing his degree in social justice communication at Cal State LA and works with organizations such as Compassion Prison Project, Theater Workers Project, Testimony Ministries, and Pathway to Kinship, all devoted to healing, rehabilitation, and second chances. Brandon's message is rooted in the belief that redemption is always possible and that connection is the key to peace on earth. His story reminds us that no matter how dark the past, there is always hope and that power to change lives, including our own, begins the moment we choose to believe in it. Please join me in welcoming Brandon Jamal Baker to the show. Brandon, it's been a really long time. I've waited for this interview for over 2 years. And I can't thank you enough for being here as my first guest on my new show. So it's a pleasure to have you here with me today. And as we discussed, we have about 8 questions we want, because I want the audience to know who you are. I want them to experience your world through your eyes and let them know what you've been through. Okay. Yeah. And the resilience that brought you back is amazing. So I want to start off with the first question. In your writing, you describe growing up in a low income housing, exposed to gangs, drugs, and abuse from a very young age. So looking back, what was the single most defining moment of your childhood that set you on the path that eventually led to incarceration for 25 years?
Wow. Well, first and foremost, it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having me. And but to answer your question,
God bless you. I'm glad you're here.
But I would say to answer your question, there were several events that I experienced. Number one, my father leaving when I was 4, growing up experiencing domestic violence in the household. But I would say that the most significant experience that I went through was witnessing the murder at the age of 7. And it wasn't just the murder that took place. It was the fact that there was no help for me afterwards, no coping skills, no one to
No
actually talk
PTSD,
to.
post-traumatic stress debriefing, none of that.
Yes, there was none of that. It was just normalized. There was drive-bys often every night. And so when these things would happen, like afterwards, you were just thankful to survive. And so there was nobody to actually talk to about what I was going through. So I had to process those things on my own.
How did you?
And I really didn't, back then. So it just really was it just taught me about survival. It just taught me to suppress my authenticity, to suppress who I wanted to be in order for survival.
And you did that.
Yeah.
I mean, right through your childhood.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to some of this, but I want to get to the second. So you call juvenile hell.
Yeah.
How did those early experiences at 13 shape the way you saw yourself and your future? I mean, but what you just said about the shooting and all that set up, that was part of the background.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So my experience with juvenile incarceration, this is something I'm very passionate about because I personally don't believe that any child should be locked away in a cage. And I could just speak from my own personal experience. The first time I went to juvenile hall, I was 13 years old. It was a scared straight program as a condition to my probation.
Was
And I,
that in excuse me, was that in LA?
yes, this was right here in LA County. The juvenile facility is called Los Padrinos. It's
Right.
it's in the news a lot right now.
Sure.
Very controversial.
Yeah.
But I've been saying that this stuff has been going on since I experienced it over 30 years ago. And I remember the first time I went, I was 13 years old, and I was sent for 3 days. And within that time, in those 3 days, I had 2 fights, was sent to the box, was abused by staff, pepper sprayed, choked out, slammed against the wall as a child. And so just those horrors, what I experienced there, it told me that I was going to be in prison one day. I knew I was going to prison one day from that first experience.
You actually knew that.
I knew I was going to prison that day because I remember when I was a kid, every time I got in trouble, my mother, bless her heart, she would always say that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be in prison one day. Or you're going to be just like your Uncle Darnell. You keep doing this, you're going to be in prison one day. And there's something about a child being confined to a box that, reaffirms and reinstills those voices that says, this is where you belong. And when I was in there, that came to my remembrance that this is where I belong at 13 years old.
You actually believed that you were going to be incarcerated at some time.
It was manifest destiny. Absolutely.
And within that belief, what was the feeling attached to that? Do you remember?
Hopelessness. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Like I said, for me, you're looking at someone who's overcome 3 suicide attempts, depression, all at the age of 14, 15 years old. And so I just remember being in there and just that feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, like you're trapped. And so what do you do when you're trapped? Either you're going to ball up in a corner and cry yourself to sleep,
Right.
or you're going to lash out in anger and just be violent towards everyone that you encounter, like an animal.
Which side did you take?
Both.
You were both.
I was both.
You were in the ball and you're also the aggressor.
At any given time, I could have been both. I've spent nights on park benches, crying myself to sleep, only to wake up the next day, taking out my anger and frustration on whoever I encountered in the world, because it's really true that hurt people.
That's right.
And I was hurting, and the hurt that I felt,
Yeah.
I wanted the world to feel.
Yeah. Misery loves company, I often say, especially when the company is miserable.
Yeah,
You want to bond together.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Incredible. So at just 18, you were sentenced to life without parole, without the possibility of parole. What do you remember most about that day? And how did it change your sense of who you were and what you might become? But more important, what got you into the deal? Because we haven't talked about how you got, what sent you to prison for 25 years. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so I don't really want to discuss the particulars of the case,
Okay.
but I will say that the charge that I was arrested for
hmm
was a robbery. There's other enhancements and things that go along
Sure.
with that, but I will say that, I was not innocent of the crime that I committed. I've taken full accountability for
Sure.
the crime I've
Sure.
committed. I've made amends and I continue to live amends. So, and I would say that I am no longer that 18-year-old child that committed those heinous acts. And also just the life of criminality that I once lived, I'm no longer that person anymore. So to reiterate, who I was at that time, I don't want people to get the negative
Oh,
misconception of who I am right now today, 'cause
I don't think
condone
that's
it
going to happen.
whatsoever. So,
I
but
don't
I
think
will
that's gonna
say,
happen.
like I said, I'm not minimizing any of my actions because I was guilty of the crime I went to prison for.
Okay.
Even though there are people that are in prison that are innocent,
Yeah.
I was not one of those ones that was innocent, for sure.
God, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. That's honesty. In your essay, A Thanksgiving Rebirth, you describe planning how you're going to end your life.
Yeah.
But an encounter with a prison pastor and his wife changed everything. Uh, can you share that moment with us and what, what was sparked inside of you?
So I guess I can tie everything up, like the last question, along
Sure.
with this question,
Absolutely.
because I definitely don't want to leave that part out of the story because it's very significant. And I remember when I was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Mind you, there was no murder on the crime that I committed. But the judge literally said, Brandon Jamal Baker, I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. He said, you are going to spend the rest of your natural life in prison. Do you understand what I'm saying here? And at 18 years old, there's no way that you can understand the magnitude of life without the possibility of parole. And before I could even answer his question, he slammed the gavel. Boom. And I was property of California Department of Corrections. And when I looked around the courtroom, I saw my family and friends on one side crying, and then I see the survivors of my crime on the other side crying. But those tears, they were different, so there was just a different feel to the mourning that both families were experiencing. But I didn't cry inside the courtroom. But when I went back to the holding tank by myself, I cried. I cried, and it was like a supernatural cleansing because that was the first time in my life that I had cried
I
up to
was
that.
I was going to ask you, was that the
Yeah.
first time that
That was the first
you
time
had an
in my
emotional?
life that I cried because I was told not to cry. And my survival was dependent on me not crying. And so, fast forward to that day on Thanksgiving 2015, I would say it was the worst day of my life when I was incarcerated, but it was the best day of my life because I had planned to end my life that day. I won't go into the details of what I was going to do for sake of I understand what it's like to be in that space. I always just tell people that if you're struggling and you're feeling this, seek the help because the help is there. But I remember you had the prison ministry. They came to my door and they were like, "Oh, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving." And I said, "Man, I'm on the verge of ending my life, and you're gonna tell me some Jesus love you crap?" I said, "GTFOH," not in those words. Literally cussed them out and just get away from here. But they were like patient, they were humble, they were kind. They just continued to minister to me. And then as they walked away, I was just going to go ahead and continue and finish my plan. And then they came back and they were like, Brandon, we forgot to pray for you. And so then they just started praying. And then I remember as they were praying, I felt like my heart just literally soften up and open up. And then they were like, Jesus is in that cell. They was like, talk to him. And then I just began to say, like, I'm sorry, mom. I'm sorry, mama. Because at the time my mother was in the hospital and ultimately she would pass away. So I was also wrestling with that as well too. And so then it went to I'm sorry, mama, to I'm sorry, God. And then it went to forgive me for my sins. And I literally said the sinner prayer without ever even hearing the sinner's prayer. And so that was like a supernatural transformation that I experienced in that cell. And after that day, like my life, it literally changed. Not to say that I was perfect or some saint afterwards, because it was a process.
We don't use the word perfect.
Yeah.
Perfectly imperfect.
Yeah, but it was definitely a process. But I would say that experience, it was so supernatural and real to me
Uh-huh.
that there was no way I could be the same afterwards.
Do you still feel that today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I can see it in your face. You, you know, some things you can't fake
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
Some things are just absolutely real.
Yeah.
That was real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've said that at 18, the 18-year-old who committed the crime is dead.
Yeah.
The 18-year-old's dead. And now you're a man seeking redemption.
Yeah.
What does redemption mean to you today? And as a concept, not only as a concept, but as a daily practice, because that's what we're really talking
Yeah.
about.
Absolutely.
Having God in your life.
Absolutely. So the whole concept of redemption is dependent upon relation, connection. So when I was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, I had a debt to pay to society in accordance to the lawmakers and policymakers. Literally, there was a debt that had to be paid. And so
What
they
was the debt?
the debt was me being separated from society until they felt I was redeemed or rehabilitated and I could return back to society.
Did you feel that you had that debt as well?
I didn't feel like I had a debt to anything or anybody because first and foremost, I understand that I was not put here on this earth to be a criminal. I was not put here on earth to be a gang member. I was put here on this earth to love and to be loved and to be my true authentic self. But society told me otherwise. And so as a child, you're such a sponge and you soak up everything that you see around you.
Kids are sponges.
And so once again, so I don't feel like I had a debt. I wasn't obligated to anything or anybody other than pursuing what was on my heart, because my natural essence was good. It was pure. It was beautiful. There was joy there, and it was snuffed out. And so me right now today, there was a reclaiming that had to happen. And so I've reclaimed my life. But going back to the topic of redemption,
Yes.
it's not enough. The transformation is an individual aspect. So I don't need you to tell me I'm transformed. I don't need you to tell me that you've seen my change, because I know that I've changed. I know I'm that different person. But the redemption comes in to say, Brandon Jamal Baker, I see you as the beautiful human being you are. I see you as my neighbor. I see you as my friend. I see you as someone who is contributing to society, who's making this world a better place. And to hear that coming from anyone that I encounter, to understand who I once was, that's what redemption looks like. You see what I mean? So redemption, there has to be some kind of connection where once, and especially this is why I advocate, because I understand policymakers, I understand people in positions of authority, like a district attorney who speaks with the voice of the people. And when I was 18 years old, the district attorney said, Brandon, you are a monster. I'm speaking for the people, and we think you're a monster. So we're going to send you to prison for the rest of your life. That means you have no redemptive value. And so that's where the trauma comes in. Society, they don't want me out here. Even when I went to the parole board, the district attorney, is talking about, we don't want you out here. And so to come home and to be embraced by people, to say, we want you out here, that's where the healing comes from. And that's what redemption looks like. It's restoration. You can't have redemption without restoration.
True. And I think the redemption and restoration, it goes back to that little boy that was pure and innocent and then got washed over by all the misery of the community. And this is that culture.
Yeah.
So for me, redemption and resilience is what this is all about today.
Absolutely.
It's resilience.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell us who we are.
Yep.
Or how we should be.
Yeah.
I think that only the maker can do that.
Absolutely.
So in your book, I want to talk about your book a little bit. Where
my baby. I put my
oh
heart
yeah,
into
we got
that.
this,
I
and
put
we're
my
going to
heart
show
into
it.
that. Yeah.
Your book. I read your book. This is an incredible book. By the way, it's available on Amazon at $11.99. $11.99.
Not $12.
This is a wonderful where I belong, and I really am pushing this because I think everybody needs to read this book. Why? Because it talks about your soul. It talks about your that inner person, and that struggle, and then how you came through it.
Yeah.
But there was one thing I made a note of. There was one statement that you've got in here that really, I sat there in my office reading your book, and I said, this is really beautiful. The quote, "Home is not a place, it's a state of being."
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo! I mean, your home can burn down, your city can blow up, who knows, right?
Yep.
But it's a place in your head. I
Absolutely.
have always believed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, and at the end of life, where are we coming home?
Yeah.
We're coming home to ourselves.
Absolutely.
But it's not just an end of life. I mean, it's throughout life, if you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Most people aren't aware of it. They live their life day to day, and they don't understand the struggles that other folks have, But resilience and redemption, incredible.
Absolutely.
So back to your book, Where I Belong, From the Yard to the World, brings together essays and poems written during your darkest days. I read your book, found it not only deeply personal, as I said, but an insight into your world. And what first pushed you to pick up a pen to write this? I mean, and to be so revealing. And when did you realize that writing was more than just survival? It was your calling. When did you tell me about it?
Yeah.
About writing the book.
Yeah. So I would just say for me is that, reading changed me, but writing saved me, because it gave me an outlet of everything that was going on in my mind, my heart, my soul. It was all in just disarray. So being able to pick up that pen and put it to paper, everything came out of me. And so I started to just reveal the broken pieces of my life. And when it was all said and done, it became a work of art. And so, like, I speak about my experience growing up. I spoke my first word when I was 4 years old.
Uh-huh.
I used to stutter all the way into my early 20s. So I never really talked. I was always afraid to speak, but it didn't mean I didn't have something to say. So once I was writing since I was like 5 years old. And so just being able to write, I was like the kid. I had a crush on a girl at school. I didn't want to talk to her. So I would write a note or a poem and put it in her locker or something like that. But to me, writing has just been beautiful. And so when I was in prison, I read so many books. Victor E. Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, that's one of my favorite books. Soul on Ice, Eldridge Cleaver. And so when I would read, these books, it empowered me and emboldened me to say, hey, I have a voice that needs to be out there. And so I began to write. So when I came home, Jim McDonald with the Theater Workers Project, who's a mentor of mine,
Yeah.
he actually worked with me on this book. He would just, he knows how to bring out a story. So he would ask me like certain prompts or things. Okay, well, write about a time that you had to wait. And then my mind would start working and I would think about being in the hole or ADSEG, and they feed us at 7:30 in the morning for breakfast and 5:30 at night for dinner. So that's 10 hours of starvation in the hole.
Wow.
And so to be able to tell that story from a creative writing lens, narrative therapy, understanding that writing is therapeutic, it's an outlet because all the trauma, the body keeps a score, it's inside.
It's right. The
And
body
so
does keep
writing
the score.
releases it. So that book is very personal to me because it's literally me revealing the contents of my heart.
You mentioned Theater Works Project and
Yeah.
Jim McDonald. Can you just elucidate for our viewers what that's about
Yeah. So
and how it came into being in your world?
yeah, so I first interacted and met Theater Workers Project, Susie Tanner, when I was incarcerated during 2020 during the pandemic. They had a writer's correspondence course. And at that time, during the pandemic, it was a very dark time for me personally. And so being able to write allowed me to get all of that stuff out. And every time I would write, they would respond. They were like, man, your writing is dark. Like, are you okay? Like, they were really like concerned. Like, are you okay? But it was just me getting that stuff out. And so then afterwards, they turned those writings into a book, Theater Inside Out. And so when I saw 4 of my stories published inside that book, it was like, hey, I actually have something to say. I have something to offer the world. And so fast forward in 2024, I was actually in the play The Walls,
Uh-huh.
which actually brought me back to my childhood. And I used to love to perform and be on stage, so I actually had a chance to perform. So that was some more healing that happened for me. And so since I've been released, I had an internship with Theater Workers Project. I'm currently an intern with them as well. So I go back into the prison, do performance. And so it's just been great, working with Theater Workers Project because that's my passion, that's my heart.
When you and I spoke earlier in preparation for today's show, I had the sense that you felt that you had lost something. You wanted to be an actor. You wanted to pursue, a career
Yeah.
in entertainment or in theater.
Yeah.
And this has now brought you closer to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's just like I said, when I look back on my life, and this is another thing about writing, it's called narrative therapy. So in the past, when I would talk about my experience, it was trauma saturated. It was always about all the negative things that I experienced. But when I began to write, I started to see that, hey, it wasn't all negative. There was actually good things that happened or good people that came into my life that tried to steer me in another direction. So one of the things I used to love was performing. I remember my freshman year of high school, I was in the drama club. And I remember I dropped out of the drama club because in my eyes, or what I was told was, it's not cool for gang members to be performing on stage and dancing and stuff like that. But in my heart, that's what I wanted to do. And when I look back, it's like, who's to say I couldn't have been the next Denzel Washington or Jamie Foxx or Idris Elba or one of these other great actors, that could have been me. And right now it's telling me that it still could be me, that
Why
it will
could
be
why
me.
couldn't it?
Exactly.
Why
And
couldn't
so
it? With enough exposure.
I say that I'm going to be the first formerly incarcerated person to win the EGOT. I say that with conviction and I believe it in my heart. And I remember the first time I said that, that was the same reaction I got. People laugh like, oh, first and foremost, like, what is the EGOT? I said Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. And then now I started to say it with certain conviction, and guess what? People are not laughing anymore.
I actually think that if that is a dream, what makes dreams happen is fortitude
Absolutely.
and working toward it. And with everything I know about you, you're unstoppable. You're working toward it.
Absolutely.
And I think these dreams are coming true
Yeah.
from everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
It is a reality. Hard to
Absolutely.
realize it, especially when you expected this should have happened younger.
Yeah.
But if you didn't go through these experiences, you wouldn't be here today in this form.
Yeah.
I mean, this is true resilience.
Yeah. And so I always say that it's never too early or too late to change, but it's never too early or too late to pursue your dreams.
Absolutely.
And when you pursue something that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
doors will open up. And so I know what's in my heart when I'm passionate about, and I'll be damned if those doors aren't opening up for me.
Wasn't there was it Flashdance line, when you lose your dream, you die? We don't want to lose the dream.
No, not at all.
I hope I quoted the right movie. So, you talk in your writing, you talk about in pieces like Dear Mama and These Feet, you blend raw pain with hope and history.
Yeah.
What do you want readers and listeners to feel when they engage with your words?
And so both of those writings were through the publication Prison Journalism Project, which was when I was incarcerated. That's what gave me hope. Every time I had a story that was published in there, it just let me know that, hey, I'm on the right track. That there are people in society that believe in me, that see my humanity and want to connect with me. I had college professors from Penn State University writing me letters, California, Cal Berkeley, writing me like, hey, man, we loved your article. A good buddy of mine, Alan Burnett with Prism Way. I wasn't incarcerated with him, but as soon as I came home, he came right up to me. He said, man, thank you. He said, I was doing a research paper on LWOP. He said, I Googled LWOP and the first thing that came up was your article, And so it was like, it just showed me the power of writing, how it will put you in rooms and spaces that you never even imagined that you would be in. So those articles that I wrote, Dear Mama, These Feet, I wrote when I was incarcerated, and it was coming from me reflecting back on my experiences in life. And it was just a way of me healing and also making restoration and making amends for, things that I've done in my past.
Do you feel that you have to make some kind of...
So it's funny. It goes back to what we talked about earlier in the conversation, and speaking about having a debt to pay to society.
Right.
Well, I never felt that I had a debt to pay to society, but I believe that I have a debt to pay to humanity. And what I mean by that is, if we want to see more love in this world, if we want to see more compassion in this world and more joy in this world, then I have to be the one that puts it out there. It says to owe no one nothing but to love them. And so for me, that's what you got coming from me. Every person I encounter, I love them. When I greet them with a firm handshake, a smile on my face, eye contact, because I can very well be the only person that's ever looked that person in the eye and said, good morning. They could have had a horrible day, because this happened for me. I've had a horrible day, and someone literally came up to me and said, hey, man, good morning, shook my hand. That energy, boom, snapped me out of it. When I was 15 years old, and I was literally having a death wish, sleeping on park benches, there was a friend, a peer of mine that I met at Nogalisburg. We went to school, and she saw me there at Nogalisburg, and she just gave me a hug, and she just said, it looked like you need a hug. And I promise you, like, as I look back on my life, I needed a hug at that time. And this is why I know it's spiritual. Every person that you encounter, it has eternal ramifications. I was a 15-year-old child. I'm going to be 44 October 20th. And that story, so we're talking about almost 30 years later, that story, it's like it just happened yesterday. A simple hug.
We don't forget. And especially when it comes to emotional things. A person who is starving, what do they need more than food? Sometimes it's just a hug. Yeah. Sometimes it's an embrace to say everything is going to be okay.
Absolutely.
You didn't have a lot of that growing up.
Yeah.
You were just trying to forge and get through the early part of your life the best way you could. But there was something you said that I want to tag on to, and that is the expression of love. Love is, in my book, a projection of how we feel internally. You can't project something you don't feel,
Yeah.
right? If you didn't feel that love for yourself,
Yeah.
and we're not talking about narcissistic self-love. We're talking about love.
Yeah.
You know, how you feel and how you project it outward.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah.
But for a child that never had that expression, it was never expressed.
Yeah.
That's a long road to get here,
Yeah.
to be able to say, I love you, or I understand, I feel this.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And so for me, it just goes back to understanding myself. When I was put here on this earth, I was put here to be a blessing, right? And I was put here to bring love into this world. And just because it wasn't reciprocated to me, and in fact, as I look back, it was, it's just that people loved me in the way that they knew how to, and so that's how I reconciled all of the past trauma that I've experienced. So now me having the understanding of who I am and tapping into, my purpose here on this earth, having compassion, empathy and understanding. Every person I encounter, I look at them from my lens, and because I've been there before. And so if I see someone who's experiencing homelessness, and we talked about like serving, I also serve at Lake Avenue Church with Testimony Ministries.
Right.
And so when I'm there, I always share with people that hospitality is important. There's a difference between hospitality and hostility in regards to holiness. And I say, like, what's the point of giving someone some food, if you're not willing to interact with them and get to know them and at least know their name?
Absolutely.
And we see it a lot of times. You see someone experiencing homelessness, you'll give them a couple of dollars or some change. Get the hell out of my way. Like, how does that make you a good person? In fact, that was very offensive what you just did. But I understand that not everybody has that kind of awareness. So when I encounter people, I look at it from the lens of, if I was in that situation, do I really want the money, or do I really want kinship? Do I want relationship? Do I want acknowledgement that I am a human being worthy of redemption and a place and standing in this world?
It's huge what you just said, because most of society doesn't have the lens or filter to understand the other side.
Yeah.
Those that are not in their socioeconomic level, or those that have been incarcerated, or those that are homeless, those that are on the streets.
Yeah. 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 And that's why, I'm here to be an ambassador of change, and change in every aspect of this experience, as a human being here on life, in this life. So, because like I said, I've experienced homelessness, when I was 15 years old, and, sleeping on park benches, sleeping on bus stops, still in a car just to sleep in the back seat, find an abandoned building I can sleep in, or hustle up enough money where I can buy a motel room for the night. And so I know what it was like. And at any given time, in the one memory, like I shared with you,
Sure.
that I remember from that experience, was that hug. There was people that gave me money. There was people that let me sleep in their house for a night or two. And I don't talk about any of that stuff because it didn't impact me as much as that girl gave me a hug and said, "You look like you need a hug." So that's really what it's all about. It's about connection.
Brandon, everybody needs a hug.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs a hug.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you said that your greatest accomplishment isn't degrees or publications, but learning to love yourself.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. How does that self-love guide you in the way you live now? And where do you see yourself and your mission 5 years from today? Because I know you're in school, you're getting your education,
Yeah.
you're a scholar,
Yeah.
all of these things.
Yeah.
So tell me about where you see yourself going.
Once again, I just see myself as being an ambassador of change, producing more love into this world, because at the end of the day, that's what I want to see. And, when people say, be the change that you want to see in this world, I like to reframe that and rename that and say that I want to be the love that I want to see in this world. So for me, that's really what it's all about. Everything that I do, I just do it in love. I have love for all, hate for none. But as for like my future, the sky's the limit. I said I'm going to be the first formerly incarcerated person who wins the EGOT.
Is that
I'm
right?
serious about that.
Right.
And I'm taking all the proper steps to make sure that that comes to pass. Also, I'm in school right now. I'm enrolled in Cal State, Los Angeles. Go Golden Eagles. Um,
Let everybody know what you're
yeah,
doing. Let them.
yeah. So I'm a comm major, communication in the field of social justice, and the reason why I pursue that is because one day I'm going to be a professor. I
Of
plan
course.
on pursuing my education all the way to my doctorate, and one day becoming a professor because I believe that it's important that other people are empowered and emboldened to use their voice. Because when I was a child, I was told that what I had to say didn't matter. You know, um, kids are to be seen, not heard. And then on top of that, to add the stutter that I had, and people say, "Man, you need to hurry up and get it out." Or people trying to finish my sentence. That was traumatizing to me because I said, next time I'm just not going to say nothing at all. But it didn't mean I didn't have something to say. And so now I want to be able to empower the next generation because the greatest evil known to mankind is not murder, it's the murder of innocence. And the murder of innocence is telling a child to shut up, go to your room, don't say anything. Because I can assure you, if a parent had a camera inside that room and to see what that child is doing after you told them to shut up, STFU, and go to your room, that kid is probably punching the wall, putting their face in the pillow, screaming at the top of their lungs because that was me.
You know that.
That was me.
You know that. It
Yes.
was you.
Yes. Yes. And so when I see children who are the most precious and innocent beings on this earth, you want to nurture them. You want to protect them. You want to guide them to say, hey, what you have to say, it matters. I love you. Because you don't necessarily have to say I love you. You just show them. And listening to a child is showing them that you love them.
It's more than that. It's showing that child that the child has a sense of self, that the child is real, that the child is precious, because all children are precious.
But could you show a child that they're precious without letting them know that you love them? Without love.
Oh, I think it's all part of it. I don't think
So
you can
once
show
again, so
that.
then you can't say that it's not that or it's more. You can't say that.
Right.
Because to me, you can tell me that you love me, but if you don't show me with your actions,
Right.
once again, especially as a child who's soaking everything in,
Yeah.
this is why people that are in domestic violence relationships,
Right.
how would I be able to accept abuse if I didn't first accept it in the household in the
Right.
form of love?
And words can be cheap, especially if there's no false meaning behind it. And it sets people up for a false expectation. But you said you love me, but you're not showing it.
Exactly. So I'm big on showing. Like I'll tell you, but I
Yeah.
also will show you.
I feel it with you.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
people watching this show, they're going to feel it. How could you not? If I'm sitting here feeling it,
Yeah.
they're going to feel it too.
Absolutely.
I have one last. And, I think the last question I wrote was probably the first one I wanted to ask. Brandon, I can't thank you enough for being here today and sharing your story with my viewers. So now it's your turn.
Yeah.
So in the time we have left, did I miss anything? Are there any final words? And I'd love to hear them if there are.
Okay. So first and foremost, once again,
Yeah.
I want to reiterate my appreciation. Thank you for having me here. I just find you to be a very insightful, informative person, and just a very delightful conversation. But just moving forward, I would just advise everyone to give me a follow on Instagram. It's b.successful81, so you can see what I'm working on and what's going on in the
Right.
future. Also, I'm going to have a book signing on November 9th at Art in the Park in Highland Park, where I'll be giving away books. Well, people can purchase the books, and whoever purchases them, I'll be able to sign, take pictures. And there also will be a discussion that is led by Jim McDonald, who I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Yeah, so come by, check it out, man. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And hopefully we'll have a lot of folks who are watching this
Yeah.
come by
Yeah.
and check it out as well.
Everyone is welcome. Absolutely.
Brandon, it's been an absolute pleasure. And to commemorate and memorialize, I want to give you a copy of
All
my mug.
Absolutely.
And to thank you for being here today.
Right. Yeah, this is pretty cool.
And I can't thank you enough for the warmth, the integrity, and possibly saving other lives
Man.
as a function of what you've been through and people watching this,
Yeah.
going, wait, I can change my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless you.
And God bless you, brother. Man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you more, man. Absolutely.
As we close today's conversation, I'm struck by how Brandon's story reminds us of something profound. No life is beyond redemption. At 18, Brandon faced a future that promised nothing but despair. Yet through faith, courage, and relentless self-work, he emerged transformed, not broken. His journey from a prison cell to a college classroom, from hopelessness to mentoring young people, is living proof that even in our darkest hours, the human spirit can rise. Brandon's message is clear. Redemption isn't just a second chance. It's a choice we make every single day to be better, to do better, and love better. If you're listening and feeling stuck in your own story, weighted down by shame, regret, or fear, let this be your invitation. Change is possible. Connection is possible. Hope is possible. You can learn more about Brandon's work, his writing, and his mission by following him on Instagram at b.successful81, and we'll put that up on the screen, or by reading his book, Where I Belong, From the Yard to the World. His book is available, if you're interested, and I hope you are, at Amazon.com for $11.99. I suggest you purchase that book. It is an insight into his soul, but it might also tell you something about who you are. If today's message spoke to you, email me your breakthroughs at drjerry@drjerryfishkin.com. I might just read them on air, and yes, I'll send you one of my beautiful Dr. Gerry Fishkin Show mugs. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please visit my YouTube channel, at Dr. Gerry Fishkin, and that's at Dr. Gerry Fishkin, and we'll put that up on the air as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, please subscribe, and share my episodes with your family, friends, or anyone you know. I'd love to hear your stories. And if today's episode inspired you, share it with someone who needs to know that redemption is real. Because as Brandon has shown us, healing begins when we choose to believe in ourselves and each other. So until next time, I'm Dr. Gerry Fishkin, reminding you, your past does not define you. Your choices today can transform your tomorrow.